Kart DS. The music alone gives me so much nostalgia. Mario Kart DS is the favorite of so many people, and its gameplay mechanics and features that many Mario Karts never implemented, such as the ability to create your own emblem, a mission mode, and a few more that you'd wish Nintendo would probably add to future Mario Karts. What I love about Mario Kart DS is the different tracks you can race on. Now for this countdown, I won't be including retro tracks. I will just include the 16 Nitro tracks and go by my top 10 favorite Mario Kart DS tracks. Starting off, we have Shroom Ridge. This one's a difficult one. On one hand, it's one that can be forgotten, especially with how in previous Mario Kart games, there have been these types of city tracks where they've been fun to play on. Shroom Ridge is still fun, but this isn't the one that pops up immediately in terms of being the most memorable Mario Kart track. What I will say about Shroom Ridge is the track is far better designed compared to a few others. Some of the tracks feel a bit plain to not only look at, but as well race on. This track gives you an ample amount of opportunities to snake drift, so if you're into that, then this is a good one. You seem to be driving on top of a road cliff, giving a different setting compared to other Mario Kart City tracks. You still have its obstacles, such as driving cars, which sometimes can make it a bit difficult if you're not used to the track. Thank God they're not like 64 where they all drive towards you. There's a few areas you can take shortcuts, but other than that, it's not a bad track to say the least. It wouldn't be a Mario Kart game if there wasn't a snowy track to go along with it. DK Pass is a fair track not only to start off the Star Cup, but as well start off the entire track itself. I mean, there are a few turns in this track where you can say are fairly tight, but aside from the few sharp turns, you have a giant ass snowballs to avoid. Are they annoying? Not really, especially considering you have space to avoid them, but I guess it's a nice little thing they added. Otherwise, it would be a pretty boring race to go through. I like how Nintendo snuck in a little secret item box at the top of the hill which contains anything from mushrooms to a star. Is it overpowered? Maybe, but I figure most people back then wouldn't know so much about the secret item box, especially with how the internet wasn't as influential as it is now. I'd like to say this course is so good to the point Nintendo decided to make another snowy Donkey Kong course for the next Mario Kart game. Overall, good Donkey Kong track, and this spawned the future creations of many more Donkey Kong tracks. Man, how are they so fun to play through? DELFINO Square. What can I say? No, this isn't Delfino Plaza from Super Mario Sunshine, but I like racing around the square of Delfino. Can I say something? I really love listening to the music of this track. Very perhaps smoothing. It probably would be better if I were racing around Delfino Isle, but hey, it's better than nothing. DELFINO Square has a few rough edges to race on, but the rest of the track is good for the most part. It's hard to really describe the feel of this track because there isn't much annoyance about this course, but at the same time there isn't a whole lot that gives me the wow vibe. To me, this is just a track that I would pick every now and then, and not the course I would pick to race on every day 24/7. Although one thing I have to ask is, why are people leaving their clothes out to dry in the mud? That's where people drive through. Like, just imagine a peaceful day, it's all sunny, you put your clothes out to dry, and all of a sudden you have a bunch of races going on. I mean, if that's your living environment, then I'm gonna feel bad if you get hit by a blue shell in the middle of a walk. I can only imagine how many of those accidents happen. Now, you may find it odd that a course like Rainbow Road is not so high on my list, and many of you will probably be thinking, Thunder! What is this? Is this the end of the world? Are we gonna die? Will you have my babies? And the answer to that is no. Especially the babies. I'm not responsible enough to take care of babies. Those babies will die under my watch. What I really like about this course is the fact that there are these two swirls that make somewhat of a cool effect. Other than that, it's a basic Rainbow Road and not one that particularly fares well with today's Rainbow Roads. However, you also compare this Rainbow Road with the other courses in this game, it feels a bit bland. There's a feeling that nothing other than the two swirls stands out in this course, which makes an influence on where this course stands on the list. I guess you do have the sharp turns here and there, but I don't think it's enough. The music is pretty good, that's one thing, but there wasn't really anything in this particular Rainbow Road that stood out to me. Right, WARIO Stadium. What can I say about this track? Well, for starters, I don't know if anyone feels it, but this is a fast track. Let me explain. You have plenty of boosts to drive through, and I think the number of boosts give that feeling that this track goes by a lot quicker than you think. You'll be finishing the course, looking at the time where it says 2.5 minutes, and you think, what the hell? That was 2.5 minutes? The track definitely lives up to its name, WARIO Stadium, as it has the feel of a stadium. I know it doesn't relate to the DS version, but I certainly love the way they remade this on the Wii U. It completely reinvented this track and looks hardly anything like the original. Anyways, back to the DS version. The twists and turns can be a bit difficult depending on what character and vehicle you have, but that's a part of what makes this course slightly more difficult. Otherwise, take the twists and turns and you have a very plain easy course. Keep in mind, this is a Special Cup track, and Nintendo don't do easy tracks in the f***ing Special Cup. So, let's take one of Nintendo's biggest games on the GameCube and turn it into a racing track for Mario Kart DS, huh? To be fair, this isn't the worst idea. If anything, this idea of taking a popular Mario title and turning it into a track for a Mario Kart game is actually one of the better ideas. You don't have to do much brainstorming because you have the game as the blueprint. Anyways, enough talking about what Nintendo were having to do while making this track. Luigi's Mansion is essentially loops around the mansion. I love how as you drive into the mansion, you can see some paintings from the game. Yeah, the mansion is cut down and there could have been ways to include several ruins, but this is the DS we're talking about. For the amount of power the DS had and trying to pull off a Luigi's Mansion track, it's a pretty well done track to race on. Although, you know what would have been cool? In the future, if they decide to make another Luigi's Mansion track, except to have it be a one long lap but the track takes place inside the mansion majority of the time. It's an idea, but we could see this in a future Mario Kart track, you never know. Not only is it a must for every Mario Kart to have a Rainbow Road, but it's also a must for every Mario Kart to have their own Bowser's Castle. This is perhaps a great Bowser's Castle. Not only is this a really well designed Bowser's Castle, but it's also a challenging one at the same time. Bowser's Castle will always have the thwomps and sharp turns to make, but then you're introduced to this new twirling log, floor, I don't know what to call it. This is perhaps something that could be brought back to future Mario Kart games, but oh well. Heck, if you don't like having to drive past that, you can even pick to drive on the bottom. Although I suggest drive through the twirling floor or log, whatever, as it's perhaps more quicker to go through. This Bowser's Castle not only covers the inside of the castle, but as well the outside of the castle. Previous Bowser's Castles on the handhelds felt, well, pretty bland if I'm being honest. So to see a Bowser's Castle that felt more open on a handheld, I gotta give it to them. They didn't do bad. I can't wait for a future Mario Kart when they decide to remake this course. I can see this course being redesigned to not only be quicker than the DS, but as well more difficult to drift around. We'll just have to wait and see how Nintendo in the future will redesign this Bowser's Castle. Now I know, Waluigi Pinball is such a popular course. You're probably thinking, Thunder, why the f*** do you not have this course as number 1, you dumb f***? Don't get me wrong, this is still a good course. However, and I have to be honest, this isn't the best Mario Kart track everyone makes it out to be. Whew. Now that I mentioned that, onto the actual track. To start off, the creativity from the designers to think, let's just make a race inside a pinball machine, is something to give them props for. I always love when Nintendo takes some random concept, turn it into a racing track, and it ends up looking great. This isn't the only random idea Nintendo took and made it into a course, there's still one other on the list. Other than perhaps the star, you're constantly moving whether you're snaking or having to avoid a giant-ass pinball. I like the small details added such as the sound effects given to item boxes when you get an item, like a lottery roulette. It gives Waluigi Pinball this unique feeling where it's different compared to other tracks. However, as different this track may feel, the track itself can feel slow sometimes. From the beginning, you feel the track is going to be fast, exhilarating, you have the boost to go off of. Great! That momentum just dies off slightly. The turns afterwards can be a bit confusing when you're first playing, which perhaps could play a role in why the course feels slow sometimes. But don't get me wrong, I still love the course. I'll say, put this track on a console Mario Kart game, and you'll get an even better version of Waluigi Pinball. So you know how I was talking about original tracks? Well, this is another case of Nintendo's random original ideas for Mario Kart tracks. However, I feel like this track is a little more outlandish compared to Waluigi's Pinball. At least with Waluigi Pinball, you have somewhat of an idea to base it off of. TikTok clock, now that is something outlandish that I'm surprised Nintendo was able to pull off. When you think of a clock track, you perhaps think of a clock where you drive around in circles. If Nintendo wanted to go down that easy route, they could have done that. But they decided not and make a track where it doesn't feel slow or bland. The music isn't even outlandish either. When you first listen to the music, it goes by a beat. Very fitting for a clock. It's a fairly fast track to go through. I'm guessing it's because of the gears that perhaps move you, but also like how they even added those. It can be difficult at first, but you get used to it the more you play the track. You know which directions the color gears will be moving, so you will drive around much more quicker. Driving around this track, nothing seems out of place. Every detail of a clock you could perhaps think of, it's somewhere around there. Could there be more? Maybe, but this track is just as good as it is. However, there's still one more track left to cover, and you're about to find out in just a moment. I don't know what others think about this course, but I personally love this course. Every time I play Versus Airship Fortress is the track I always play. Throughout the entire track, there is obstacles to avoid. Now yes, obstacles can be annoying for many people. I mean, for crying out loud, I hate the fact that I had to work as a part-time plumber for my uncle back in the 90s. But the obstacles here add a bit something to the track. What helps with this idea is you're introduced to the music that begins slow, and all of a sudden, it speeds up. As the music is quick from the start, you have each of these different obstacles to avoid. You have little breathing room to work with. There's this feel where this track will try and suffocate you with so much to avoid, but it isn't to the point where it's annoying to the person playing. Even as you avoid all this and you suddenly make the cannon, there's a fast feel continuing. It feels even more faster when you're snaking or drift hopping your way down, depending on what you do. Course design, music, obstacles, tempo, this is perhaps my favorite Mario Kart DS track to race. No matter what time of the day it is, Airship Fortress is a track I can always sit down and play through.